An athlete performs 100-meter trial runs once daily for each of 30 days in a month and records the time taken in seconds for each. A statistician calculates a daily average speed for each trial run by dividing distance by time. Highest daily average speed was Vmax and lowest average speed was Vmin, where Vmax is greater than Vmin. In addition, the statistician calculates a monthly average speed by summing total distance run divided by sum of times taken over all 30 trial runs. We are given 4 options and we have to pick all correct options, meaning that there may be one or more than one correct options. And this is a special type of multiple choice questions where one or more than one option will be correct, and these are usually a bit more difficult because in order to get credit you have to pick all the correct options. So if you pick just one correct option and if there are more than one, then you do not get any credit. Also, if you pick a correct option and an incorrect option, you also don't get credit for that. So in order to understand whether these options that are given this particular problem are correct or not, we first need to understand how the average speeds, both the daily average speed as well as the monthly average speed, are calculated. So let's start with the daily average speed, which is actually simple. So you have a given day, day 1, the athlete runs a distance of 100 meters and he's running the same distance every day, right? He's performing a 100-meter trial run every day once. Let's suppose he takes t1 seconds on day 1, and then the average speed for that day's trial run would be simply 100 divided by t1, and it's relatively easy to express t1 in terms of v1 as well. So t1 will be just 100 by v1, and we can do the same thing for all the days. So on day 30, basically if we represent the time taken as t30, then the average speed for that day v30 is 100 over t30, and as easily t30 can be expressed in terms of v30 as 100 by v30. So this part is fairly easy and simple to understand, the daily average speeds. But then for the monthly average, the statistician is basically taking a sum of all the distances run. So if you have 30 days, so that will be 30 multiplied by 100 meters, a total distance run. And then if we sum up all the time, so this is t1 plus t2 plus till t30, and then if we divide these two quantities, we get the monthly average, which I have represented that as Vmin. And this one, if we replace t by v, so we replace all the t's by the corresponding v's in the denominator, we basically get this. And then the 100 gets cancelled out from numerator and denominator, and we are left with this one. And from this, it's easy to see that this is not the same thing as a simple arithmetic mean. So we can already rule out the option 2, the monthly average speed is the simple arithmetic mean of the daily average speed. This is not true, right? And what essentially we have, the average speeds that we have here is essentially the harmonic mean. It's something called the harmonic mean of the daily average speeds. And harmonic mean, in general, it won't be equal to the simple arithmetic mean. There may be a special case where if all the individual quantities are the same or the equal, meaning that if we have v1 is equal to v2, v3, and so on, then that's a special scenario when the harmonic mean will be equal to the simple arithmetic mean. But obviously that's a special case. And one of the things that's given in the problem, which may seem a little bit obvious, but it kind of clarifies that a little bit, is we are given Vmax greater than Vmean. And to some, it may appear an obvious statement because maximum should always exceed the minimum. It should in general, except in a very special case when, each day, the daily average speed for all the days are equal. So meaning that each day, the daily average speed of the athlete is exactly the same. And that's a really special and a very hypothetical case. And this statement in the problem that Vmax greater than Vmean kind of clarifies that's not the case. So that's why option 2, the average monthly speed is the simple arithmetic mean of the daily average speeds, can be ruled out from what we have so far. So if we change sides, and this is just a simple manipulation of the same equation, we basically can get 30 by Vmon is equal to 1 by V1 plus 1 by V2 plus so on till 1 by V30. So 30 times multiplied by 1 by the monthly average speed is equal to the sum of the reciprocals of the average daily velocities. So this is what this means. So now let's clean up our space a little bit so that we have more room. So this is what we arrived at last. And going from there on, what if we, replace each V, like V1, V2, V3 on the right-hand side of the equation by Vmax. So we know that Vmax is the maximum value that any one of those V's can take. And if we replace each of those V's by Vmax, by the maximum value that that particular V can possibly take, then we are basically maximizing each denominator in that sum of the reciprocals. And what that means is the quantity that we'll get by replacing each of those V's by Vmax, since this is a reciprocal sum, that sum will be lesser than the original quantity we have on the left-hand side, because we are giving the maximum possible value that any one of those denominators can take to each of those denominators, and we are, as a result of that, reducing the overall value, right? Because it's reciprocal, so if you increase the denominator, the value gets lesser. So that's why we have this inequality here, where 30 by Vmon is greater than the sum that we'll get if we replace each V in the denominator by Vmax. And this is basically 30 times of 1 by Vmax. So we have 30 by Vmon greater than 30 by Vmax. And since this is these are all positive quantities that we're dealing with here, if we cross multiply, the equality gets the inequality gets preserved. So we have Vmax greater than Vmon. So the monthly average speed should be less than Vmax. We can take the same approach, and instead of replacing each of those V's in the reciprocals, in the sum of the reciprocals by Vmean, which is the minimum possible value that one of those V's can potentially take, we are basically limiting the sum to the potential max value. So the sum of the reciprocal should be less than that value, right? And it's kind of the same logic as Vmax, but just applied in the reverse way. And this is basically 30 times Vmean and we can arrive at a similar inequality here, which leads us to V mean should be less than V mon. So the monthly average should be greater than V mean. So combining these two, what we are finding is the monthly average speed should be less than V max, but greater than V mean. So option 1 seems to be the correct choice or correct option, but we don't know whether it's the only correct option. So for that, we need to verify if there is some truth in option number 3 and option number 4. So let's start with this same expression again. Now we have 30 by V mon is equal to sum of the reciprocals of all the daily average speeds, and somewhere there's also a V mean. So 1 by V mean basically represents the maximum value that a reciprocal can take, right? 1 by V can take, because V mean is the minimum value of V, right? And since it's in the denominator, it basically tells us what's the maximum limit of the value of any one of those reciprocals, and that's 1 by V mean. And it should be there in that distribution. We don't know where it occurs. It might be the first average speed or the 30th average speed, or it may be somewhere in between. But it's in there. And in general, we can conclude from this that the left-hand side should be greater than 1 by V mean, right? So 30 by V mon, which is the sum of the reciprocals, because these reciprocals, each of them individually, it's a positive quantity, right? And we're adding two positive quantities or more than two positive quantities in this case. So there's a sum will be greater than any one of those individual reciprocal. And that's basically a simple arithmetic logic that we apply to arrive at this inequality. And now if we do some manipulation, we can easily show that 30 times V mean should be greater than V mon, or in other words, V mon should be less than 30 times V mean. So the option number 3 seems to be correct. So if we have to pick all the correct options here, option number 1 and option number 3 are the correct choices.